empowering minds, amplifying voices, and transforming lives. This is the Untold Stories of Hope podcast, brought to you by the Destiny Connect Foundation. Your hosts, Zion Enogeu and Puffy Medupe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to an exciting episode of Untold Stories of Hope podcast, brought to you by Destiny Connect Foundation. What an exciting day. You know what? I'm always looking forward to a positive conversation with any of our guests that we are hosting each and every time. Come on, if you've just joined us now, welcome to the podcast. And you're more than welcome. My name is Puffy Medupe, all the way from South Africa. I'm also an ambassador for Destiny Connect Foundation, and I'm also a co-host for Untold Stories of Hope podcast. And we welcome you all over the globe, wherever we are, because you know we can always share some untold stories of hope. Please, you know how to follow us, destinyconnectfoundation.org. That's our website. And you can also say Destiny Connect Foundation on Facebook, on YouTube. You know, follow us and also be part of this podcast. As you know, every week or every session or every interview that we have, we make sure that we bring exciting guests who are going to help you uncover yourself in so many areas. So if you've just tuned in now, welcome. And we are looking forward to an exciting conversation. Today, we have a phenomenal lady. You know, she's, just this powerful individual. And, in the background, as we're talking to her now, there's a lot of things that she said. Maria Dolores, all the way from Sweden. She is a published author, meaning that she has got numerous books that she's going to tell us about today. She's a keynote speaker, and she speaks in many big global platforms all over the world. And she's an expert also in human resources leadership, and she's the founder of the Human Contract Foundation. And none other than that, we are excited to be hosting her today because we are talking about the human contract and constitution. This is one of the biggest topics that we can ever talk about because it's going to help you to be informed about global issues, rights, constitutions, in terms of books and materials that can help you empower yourself in terms of your knowledge. Maria, welcome to Untold Stories of Hope.
Thank you, Puffy. It's so nice to be here and to share with you and the audience about the Human Contract Foundation and my upcoming book, The Human Constitution, 7 Promises of a New Era. Thank you.
I'm telling you, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You told me just now that you are from Sweden,
yes.
And I know many people, we always hear Sweden. I want to fly there one day just to see the place, and I'm sure it's a lovely area to be at.
Yeah, Sweden is, and Scandinavia in general, we have very dark and cold winters, and we have extremely bright and sunny summers. So right now it's very long days of daylight, it's nice here. And I love to travel all over the world I've been in Los Angeles, New York, Dubai. I just came back from London yesterday. I was there a week, and I just really love to travel and to Dubai, all over the world to share about our human rights and our human responsibilities.
That's amazing. When I looked at your biography, and it says a lot about your leadership and your expertise, in terms of, the topic that we are talking about, human contract and constitution, and you being an expert in terms of, humanity things. What moment in your life first made you feel that something was deeply missing, and how we relate to one another as human beings?
Thank you. That's a good question. I think you can look at it both through my personal journey, but also the journey we have us as a society and as a humanity. If we look at our human history, Puffy, our 300,000 year human history, and through the different the thousands and thousands of years, we have always had technology supporting and driving us to the next level and the next level. So 300,000 years ago, we had the technology of fire and stone. And then when we became agricultural, we grew in groups from 150 people to 1,000. And so for each change in our human history, we both have technology, but we also have a mindset and to see how we perceive ourselves and one another, and that it's shifting. And we have the privilege today, Puffy, that we have representation from all the different types of civilization and the different types of organization forms. So we have 350 million people who are living indigenous lives. And with the wisdom and the insight of living indigenous lives and how we as humans perceive ourselves and one another. And you could argue that we also have empire and empire structures, and we have kingdoms, and we have all these various organization forms. And so here in Sweden, we have the three fundaments of our society, which is both the justice system, and then that was founded in the 1600, and then on top of that came the political system, and at the same time the media, what we call the third state of power, and the media's role was supposed to audit the justice system and the political system. And then now here we are again having technology supporting and driving us to a global local world. And so my background and my work has both been an interest of both our human history. My major was in sociology. I've also studied psychology, philosophy, but also an interest in social development and science fiction. So we have this, I don't know if you heard about him, Kardashev, and he talks about how we are currently 0.73 type of civilization, which is that we are on our way to become a global civilization, a 1.0 type of civilization. Now, Kardashev is very, very focused on the energy and how we use energy. And I believe we need to broaden the perspective both and also deepen governance. And that's why the Human Constitution, the book that I'm just about to publish, shortly. And the Human Constitution is referring to that we are born with rights. Every single human being, we are born with rights, and that we mature in our responsibilities. So it's a guidance and a framework that we can all agree about, that simply being human. And then, you know, Puffy, we have several billionaires who are very eager to become a 2.0 type of civilization, which is interplanetary civilization. And I believe we need to take a stand that we need to become a planetary civilization first, yet not using the old concept of, you know, top down, but we also need a bottom up movement, and we need to unite as humans and as a humanity, and simply talking about life here and now while we're living this life on this planet, and to respect ourselves, our physical, mental health, and to respect one another, and also an understanding for us as a species, as a humanity. So that's what I'm working with. And this is also why I received the Ambassador for World Peace Award 2023. When the year before I was speaking in the World Peace Conference in the same venue we have here in Stockholm of the Nobel Prize. And so in 2022, I was the keynote speaker, and in 2023, I received the Ambassador for World Peace Award.
That's amazing, Maria. And, when you speak like this, I can sense the passion that you have for humanity, especially when it comes to judicial, social justice system. And this is where most people look down, in terms of humanity. You spoke about a lot of evolution and transformation in terms of civilization, how knowledge and information might also have been there, but it becomes better and better with time and age, because you've mentioned a couple of systems, whether it's kingdoms, whether it's tribal systems coming into the realization, of the human contract to say, look, there's a lot of information and knowledge that can help a lot of people grow, but we need people like Maria Dolores, who can come and say, look, you have not seen this before, but this is the direction in which the world is going. And as much as we are escalating, with humanity, the populations, increasing and becoming more greater and greater, it is this kind of knowledge that will remind people of the humanity, importance, and value. Now, this leads me to what I want to talk to you about next. Was there any personal experience, maybe something that has to do with a painful experience or injustice that has ever happened to you, that became a spark for you to create the human contract?
Yes, it was. And that's also a very good question. I talk about, and I write, and when I published my first book 10 years ago, I have a concept that I call istima. And istima is, if we use more of the academic language, it's what psychologists refer to as going and shifting perspective. Or if people talk about more when they spiritual realm, we talk about consciousness. But if we talk about, going from one perspective, and when we shift perspective, we don't go from here to here, but we dive into, narrowing our perspective, going into fear, anger, frustration, and then we come to that breaking point, and then we broaden perspective. So I would say my two most important istima was partly when my mother died in 2009, and facing and going through the grief of losing my mother, and also embracing my emotions. And I've done over 160 days of meditation over the years, and so I had the knowledge and the resources, and to stay present with all my emotion, all this turbulence, and both the anger of the frustration of my mother dying, and the deep grief, and to embrace that until I broaden perspectives, and also to come to embrace life deeper. And then in 2013 was my second important istima. That was when I divorced my husband, and his grief came out in a very destructive way. So he was stalking me. He knew where I was, who I was seeing, and it was a really, really scary time. So I isolated myself more and more. What also happened Puffy, was that he developed a brain tumor. So it was really crazy for real with his brain tumor. And in 2015, he died. And that's when I wrote this book here, A State of Grace, Human Rights and Human Obligations. So that's when I started to talk about that we are born with rights. I give my ex-husband the right to hate me because we are born with the right to our body. We're born with the right to all our emotions. We're born with the right to all our thoughts. And we have a responsibility for our physical and mental health. So that's the first 3 out of the 7 principles that I'm talking about in the human constitution: body, emotion, and thought. And so this was an important, and I believe every single human being, just as you were saying, every single human being, no matter if we are the richest person on the planet, or if we are the youngest, or the poorest, or if we are facing lots of trauma, or if we, from the outside, it looks like we have everything served for us. Every single human being is facing and going through istima and their own suffering. And it's both on individual level, it's also in our relationships, how we mature and develop. And that's what I saw when I was working with both personal development and talking and learning about interpersonal and group dynamic, is also going through this istima process, going through turbulence when we are, getting to know each other, and you see one thing and I see another thing, and then it's the learning and to mature as humans. And then what I also see now is all of these the challenges that we are facing now as a species. That's also istima. And the wars and the conflicts and the devastation that we are having with the planet's resources, it's also istima, and it's an important learning that we need to mature through.
And you've said so many powerful elements that I believe are part of what has made you to be who you are. I mean, I really empathize with you, especially with the loss of your mom in 2009, and also the divorce in 2013. Mm. And like you mentioned in 2015, the grief over the passing of your ex-husband. But I also see a lot of strength in you. The achievements that we achieve, like you won the award for World Peace Award because of the influence that you have in humanity and justice, and human rights and constitution. And really, I congratulate you for that. Even the book that you have now, written, the Human Constitution, I believe it is a book that is going to help a lot of people. And speaking about that, there's a lot of injustice in this world, Maria. We still have a lot of women who are still human trafficked, kids, sexual molestation. There's still a lot of murder, crime, and all these painful things that are happening. And, the more the world becomes older, it is the more, certain level of humanity is somehow, it looks like it's decreasing, because most people now believe in doing a lot of wrong things and injustice, and there are people like yourself, Maria, who still believe and who still has hope, that humanity still stands a chance to change perspective and become human beings that we are supposed to be. Yes. Now, take us to the time when you felt like giving up on this mission. And What kept you going? I mean, there are a lot of cynical people out there, people who are just negative about life, people who are complaining about everything, about the government, the economy, health, humanity. But obviously we have, like you spoke about, that breaking point that can either make you or break you. But now today you are here. It shows how much you have persisted and endured throughout the journey. So tell us what happened when you felt like giving up and what kept you going.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is a really good question. I think the deepest and the darkest, it's been a challenging. I think the one of the darkest moments I'm thinking about is in 2013, when I at one point I didn't have a home. I didn't trust my friends, and so I didn't have any. I had my own company, but I couldn't work because I was so scared. So I didn't have any colleagues, and at one point, my family also turned against me. So I was like really completely isolated. I remember waking up on this mattress on the floor, and in the early morning, and it felt like I was pierced through my body with sticks, and it was afterwards I can understand this was some sort of panic attack. And then my only mantra at this time was, "This too shall pass." And that was what I have learned, through all these different days of meditation that I've done, all the work that I read, and the personal job that I've done with myself. That was my my straw, my hope that this too shall pass. And then 1 or 2 days after, I had my phone ringing from a person I've never met before, and she was asking how I was doing, and she had heard of my situation, and she said she wanted to know how are you doing, and I was like, "Do you really want to know?" And she said yes. And then I told her, and she said the releasing thing, and I get moved now, because she said, "I believe you." And just to have someone else that I'd never even met before, someone saying, "I believe you," when I didn't even believe myself. And actually, I wanted to share this with you and also with the audience. Just when I was in London last week, like everyone, running around in the metro or in the subway, and then at one point I was looking down, and there was a lady sitting and crying, and something inside of me was just like, I saw her, and she looked up at me with tears, and she was just really, really in a really, really dark place. So I stopped, and I said, "Hey, honey, how are you doing?" And I asked her if she wanted a hug. And so I gave her a hug and I gave her some money, and she looked at me and she said, I can't do this anymore. And I realized, she was probably at a point when she was really considering to end her life. And then I looked at her and I said, look at me, listen to me. This too shall pass. And it does. And it's when we really come to that dark breaking point. And that's the important part in our life. That's when we also have, instead of going into more darkness and ending, instead moving, trusting there is something else. And I do not talk about religion. I simply talk about life here and now, and how these are also when we look back on those breaking points that didn't break us, when we could say to ourselves, or we can say to one another, this too shall pass. That's when I look back at that really also made me stronger, because I know that I can endure anything. And this is my life path. And I simply want to travel all over the world. And I simply want to talk about that we are born with our rights and that we also mature in our responsibilities.
If you've just joined us now, welcome to Untold Stories of Hope podcast, brought to you by Destiny Connect Foundation. You are still here with me, Pafimi Rupi, all the way from South Africa. And you know that, you can follow us anywhere in our social medias, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can say Destiny Connect Foundation. You can also say YouTube, check us there. Or you can say destinyconnectfoundation.org and also share your untold story of hope. Welcome all over the world where you are watching. And we are grateful because I'm with a phenomenal leader, Maria Dolores, all the way from Sweden. And we are talking about nothing but the human contract and constitution. We are pouring out our hearts here in terms of humanity, the love of humanity, justice for humanity, human rights, so that whoever is watching this podcast, you can be able to know how to navigate your path, through now changing your perspective in terms of life, in terms of how you see everything. And Maria, I'm grateful that you definitely became vulnerable. I can feel your emotion from where you are now, sharing all these untold stories that will give someone hope. The story that you shared when you said you were in London last week and someone was in their darkest place, at the breaking point where really everything seems like it's dark, and we all find ourselves in that space sometimes when we are like, okay, what's going on? Am I gonna make it? We find ourselves isolated, like you said, and we are like, okay, what am I gonna do from here? But like you said, this too shall pass. Those are the words that stood out for me already. These are the words that I'm gonna run with and also encourage other people with. And someone once said to me, actually, I was reading a leader's guide that said the greatest leaders are made during times of uncertainty, because before it gets bright, it also gets dark. Now, how was your understanding, or when you look at all these experiences that you have, Maria, all these experiences, the downfalls, the falling and the rising, what is your understanding now of humanity, dignity, responsibility? How has that evolved in your mind since you started the organization? Because there's a way you can understand humanity before, but when you go through certain experiences and when you get restored and you also see different, angles and aspects of life, then you change your perspective. So how do you understand humanity, dignity, and responsibility now?
I love that you mentioned dignity, because that's really a core value for me. My grandmother talked a lot about dignity when I was growing up. And during the pandemic, I have also helped my friend in her funeral business. So I casketed 3,000 people. And I've also attended over 1,300 funerals. So I've seen all religions, all the major religions, like Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, Sikh, and also secular different kind of ceremonies. So seeing all this death and I was invited to come and to talk here at the Swedish Opera Winfrey about dignity and dignity in funerals. So that's really my core and my understanding of dignity for me is when you have your crown on your head, when you are the king in your life, and I am the queen in my life, and to take our rightful space and place. And it is a learning, and it is to mature. And that's why the human constitution is simply stating that we are born with rights. Just because you're human, we're born with rights, and that we mature in our responsibility. It's a journey to understand both our own journey and to mature in our emotions, in our thoughts, and to mature in our relationships, and to strive to more dignity and more maturity. And it's understanding and seeing how we as a species collectively can and need to unite. Because, Puffy, I believe that we already have all the solutions for all the challenges that we are facing today. However, we need to unite, and we need to collaborate, and we need to use all the wisdom from the indigenous people and understanding the empire structure and the gemstones that each organization form is having, where each human is having their own gemstone, and how we contribute to the world. The technology is there, the wisdom is there. We need to unite. And that's what the human constitution is supporting. It's not against any regime. It's not against any individual. It's to encourage and to give hope to the world.
You know, you spoke a lot of nuggets. I don't know, I feel goosebumps. I feel goosebumps all over my body, because, you know, you speak so much humanity that it makes me feel that I'm human as I'm sitting here now. The founder of Destiny Connect Foundation, Mr. James Ojo, he likes saying these words, that a single tree does not make a forest. And we always say, you know, even when we attend, there's a program we have for Destiny Connect Foundation. It's called the 3 Cs, you know, Mastermind Roundtable, where we communicate, connect, and collaborate, you know, and we always say you can never pour from an empty cup. So obviously the role that you are playing now in the world, and as much as you want to help as many people as possible, you want to reach different communities and individuals, you know, have you ever been through moments when you feel that being deeply empathetic now feels like a burden more than a gift? You know, you feel like, okay, this is too heavy, you know, being there for people, you know, do you get overwhelmed? Do you have those moments where you feel like, okay, this feels like a burden? And how do you recharge? How do you recollect yourself and get your strength back?
If I get overwhelmed, you know, Puffy, I have, of course.
I love that suspense. I love that suspense.
I'm thinking.
I love that.
Of course, I have, of course, and more more than I feel overwhelmed, I think I have people saying to me, hey, you know, Maria, this is really big. Like, how did you come up with this, and why you? And I don't know. I just feel like I'm a product of these ideas, these thoughts, and I'm a product of this society in Sweden. But I'm so on one hand, you could say, yeah, this is really big, and my target group is 8 billion people. Yet, you know, it's just our rights and our responsibilities. How hard can it be? Right? You know, it's just our rights and our responsibilities. So
simple as that.
And I think that, you know, part of growing up as a Scandinavian woman, with all my background of human history, of sociology, psychology, philosophy, and a deep passion about a belief of us as a species, and how we have technology supporting and driving us, but we need this framework holding us. And this framework, for new listeners, this framework is about our rights and responsibilities for these 7 principles. And the first 3 is personal: body, emotion, and thought. That we have rights and we mature in our responsibilities. And the coming 3 is power, communication, and life. That we have the right to our personal power, and we have a responsibility in how we act and interact. We have the right in our freedom of speech and freedom of creativity, yet we also have a responsibility what we say, what we communicate, and to listen. That's the 5th. And then the 6th is life, that you have the right to your life. And we also have a responsibility to respect others' way of life and other life forms, to respect the animals on the planet, both in the sea and on the planet, in the air, to respect all life forms. So that's the 6th. And then the 7th, the last principle, is about us as a collective, our collective rights and responsibilities. In Swedish, we call this civilkurage, which is moral courage. So it's an encouragement. Yes, civilkurage.
I'm practicing now, you can see.
Yeah, and civilkurage is encouraging humanity, and for all of us to strengthen the citizenship and to stand up for one another, and to see that beyond all the labels, you know, the color of our skin, or our background, our religion, our status, that at the core, we have equal human worth. We have equal human worth.
That's powerful. You know, I'm just thinking, because once you have a mission and a vision like this, obviously it will start as an organization. But the biggest question that we want to ask you is that, what does the human contract mean to you now? Not as a concept, but from a place of lived experience. I mean, I believe that you are now deeply connected and rooted to this vision. And what does it mean to you now?
I don't really understand the question, what it means to me. What do you mean?
You know, not as a concept, but as a lived experience, as something that now it's truly alive, and you see the impact of what it's doing all over the world. And I believe that it gets you more, you know, enthusiastic and excited, you know, to deliver. Yeah. You know, you mentioned something earlier, how you love the idea of going all over the world, you know, and speaking to people, and definitely reviving people, you know, who feel that this is the end. So this question is more about that, to say, what does it mean to you now, the human contract, not just as a concept, but as an experience that you live into every day?
I don't know. I still don't understand the question. It's just, maybe it's because it's so strongly, deeply connected to that. I just feel like this is my life purpose. This is just what I'm meant to do, and just to travel all over the world and to connect with people all over the world, and to talk about our rights and responsibilities. I don't know. I think it's also that that it's important, both for me and the team that I have, and to have it like rings on the water, that it's living the human contract for myself, not just, hopping on a stage and say, yeah, let's unite rights and responsibilities, but also living that for myself, to respect my body, to respect and to mature in my emotions, and to respect and broaden my thoughts. Obviously there's always new perspective to be discovered, and so it's living the human contract and living our rights and responsibilities, and also to mature. I'm not perfect, and it's just an understanding of that, to be more curious.
And you are living it out. I can assure you, you have said a mouthful, because it's your purpose. It's alive in you. And tell me, Maria, there's a lot of people watching all over the world now. And we often talk about people who are in vulnerable communities, people who there's a young girl out there, there's a woman out there, there's a man out there.
Yeah. So, with the understanding of that we have about 45 million people who are enslaved, people who are being bought and sold by other humans. So with the understanding we have 45 million slaves, that should mean we have about a couple of 100 million people around those people who are buying and selling slaves. So that change, and this is really a call to humans and humanity, that I cannot change that, but I believe the people within that and the people around that needs to unite and needs to say, hey, this is not right.
This is not okay.
We can do better. We need to do better. We must do better.
What do you hope future generations will feel when they read or hear about the human contract?
That's a really good question. I've never been asked that before. What do future generations think about the human contract? I firmly believe that the future generation feels that this is something natural for them in their life, that it's natural that they are born with rights, and that we all are encouraged to mature in our responsibilities. It's kind of ironic, since I received the Ambassador for World Peace Award, yet I deeply see that going through this istima process, that is, going from one level of consciousness or from one perspective, and when we shift perspective, it's also with the insight of how uncomfort, conflict, and discomfort is important for us to mature. So, I mean, the wars and the devastation that is going on right now, we need to mature from that. I believe that with a more peaceful mindset, that we can create something beautiful and thriving. But I don't believe in a friction-free society, but it's with a more mature mindset that we can do better.
You are such an amazing person. You are just an amazing human being. And with your passion for humanity, this is what we believe in Destiny Connect Foundation. And one of the stories really that have touched me today is your story, in Untold Stories of Hope podcast. And I really am touched and I'm so moved. And I can imagine how many people now listening to this all over the world are feeling the same way that I'm feeling. What legacy are you personally hoping to leave behind? Not just through your work, but through how you lived your life.
Thank you for the question. I do have a challenge with this word legacy, because I just so strongly feel like I'm just here. I just want to share, and I just want to do what I sort of came to do, what I want to share, and then I'll die. I hope my daughter will have given good preconditions to her life, but yeah, I don't know. It's not like I want. It's not grandiose for me,
Yeah, I relate to what you're saying.
I don't know. Yeah.
And it's a beautiful question, because I can see the way it makes you bubble. It's a beautiful question. And we normally, as we wrap up now, this beautiful conversation, we normally do this segment in Untold Stories of Hope podcast, where we want you, to take this chance to speak to the world about the essence, of your shared humanity responsible, or our shared humanity responsibility, and I always say, I was mentioning earlier that there's someone discouraged out there, Maria. There's someone who feel like they've been through a lot and they can't take this anymore. They're exhausted, they're overwhelmed, there are people with visions and missions in life. There's someone out there who wants to be like you, and they feel like it's a lot and the resources are not there, the support is not there. But what can you say, to the world out there? What can you say to encourage someone to keep going and to never give up? And also speak to the world about the essence of our shared humanity responsibility. And what would you say from your heart, so that someone can understand what this means completely?
I believe in that it's great when people are finding their own path, when people are finding their own purpose and not trying to be anyone else, but you are really perfect the way you are. And it's also to face and to go through your isthma, your challenges, and to see that the challenges that you are facing today, this too shall pass. And when you cannot see that right now because you are right in that spot right now, yet when you look back at this point in your life, you will see how you matured and what you learned through this very, very important time. And you can share that learning, that insight, that wisdom with others. And you can mature more in your own path, in your own purpose.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. Well done. And congratulations on all your achievements. It's been an honor to have you in the platform today. And I'm so inspired. There's a lot of things that I've put in my diary, to remember that this is what Maria Dolores said, this day, these two shall pass. And your vulnerability, how you opened up about your life, your experiences, that shapes your perspective about, the passion and the purpose that you are pursuing in humanity justice. And I say, well done, Maria. I'm really proud of you. I get more goosebumps as I speak to you because I can see how much you are just an amazing human being with so much passion for humanity. And as Destiny Connect Foundation and Untold Stories of Hope podcast, we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And with your book, The Human Constitution, that many people will order your book. We'll definitely order our own copies, and we're going to read it, and we're going to spread the word all over the world to say there's icons like Maria Dolores, who came into this platform and they have made a mark. So well done. Keep shining for the sake of the world and keep on giving hope to many human beings out there who are living in hopelessness and who are really excited, some of them, about the future. So how can people contact you and how people can reach you, whether in social media or in any other way in which they can find you?
Yeah, you can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram with Eva Maria Dolores. I'm on Twitter or X, Eva Maria Dolores. And I also, you can just connect. Yeah. And let's create a better world together.
Ladies and gentlemen, Untold Stories of Hope podcast brought to you by Destiny Connect Foundation, the Human Contract and Constitution. We are grateful and we are so happy that we have a positive conversation with Maria Dolores all the way from Sweden. Remember that you can also be part of the podcast and come and share your untold story of hope. Like I said, you can visit us on destinyconnectfoundation.org, become a member of our community, as the Destiny's community. And you can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and also YouTube. Subscribe on our YouTube channel. Share all these podcast episodes because they are quite inspiring and motivational. And you can also come and apply or come and participate and be part of this Destiny Connect Foundation family. We just want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who's listening and watching all over the world. And we are grateful that you have got some insight, some humanity, some love, some inspiration, some motivation. My name is Pafimi Dupi, all the way from South Africa, and I'm grateful to have been with you here. We'll see you again on the next episode. Don't forget that we love you. Destiny Connect Foundation is the way to go. Thank you so much. Sharp, sharp.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Untold Stories of Hope podcast. We hope you enjoyed and you were inspired by today's conversation. Remember, you can get more access to resources plus join a thriving global community of change makers by visiting our website at destinyconnectfoundation.org. Please subscribe to our channel and spread the word. Don't forget to turn the notification on. Until next time, keep inspiring your world.